The 2016 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix was an interesting championship showdown, but was far too cagey and tactical in the eyes of many to be the thrill-a-minute slugfest that most Formula One fans had hoped for. However, we can take this opportunity to look back on some of the final race F1 title deciders of the past, which were some of the most tense, exciting and spectacular races in its history. Thanks to the rule in 1959 that the best 5 results for a driver would be counted, 3 drivers arrived at the final round at the Sebring circuit in Florida with a chance at the crown. Jack Brabham led the championship in the Cooper Climax T51, with Sterling Moss and Tony Brooks second and third in the championship, with their Ferrari Dino 246 and Cooper Climax T51 respectively. At the start, it was Moss that roared into an early lead, but this turned out to be short-lived, as he was out after just 5 laps of the 42-lap race with a broken gearbox, an issue that had blighted the popular Englishman's season. Meanwhile, Brooks, who was the title outsider, never appeared in the hunt for the victory that he needed to overhaul Brabham. So, it seemed certain that Black Jack would lift the crown in style with his 3rd win of the season. But then, on the final lap of the race, his Cooper ran out of fuel. Teammate Bruce McLaren shot past Brabham to deny Maurice Trintignant the win by just 0.6 of a second, becoming the youngest ever race winner in the process. Brabham, meanwhile, didn't need to finish the race, but elected to push his stricken car a quarter of a mile uphill to finish a distant 4th, nearly collapsing over the finish line. The 1964 title decider in Mexico City was between 3 British drivers from 3 different teams. Jim Clark in the legendary Lotus 25, Graham Hill in the BRM P261, and John Surtees in the Ferrari 158. Clark started on pole and eased out a lead over second-place Dan Gurney in his Brabham Climax, but by lap 11 Hill had moved into 3rd, which would give him the title even if Clark won the race. But he was shadowed by Lorenzo Bandini in the flat 12 engine Ferrari, and on lap 31 the Italian driver made a critical error and controversially punted Hill's BRM off. The title was now surely Clark's to lose, with Gurney still occupying the 2nd place needed by Surtees if he wanted the crown. But on the very last lap of the race, a split oil line put Clark out of the race, and for a few moments it looked like Hill would be destined to be the champion, only for Bandini to wave his teammate into 2nd place, giving Surtees the title by a solitary point. The 1976 Formula One season has often been labelled as one of the greatest sporting stories ever told, full of drama, controversy and intrigue, and a spellbinding final battle between the 2 main protagonists, Englishman James Hunt in his McLaren Ford M23 and Austria's Niki Lauda in the Ferrari 312T, was the icing on the cake. The pair was split by 3 points in Lauda's favour heading to the inaugural Japanese Grand Prix held at the Fuji circuit. If Hunt won the race, the title was his regardless of where Lauda finished. If he didn't, then Lauda just had to stay glued to the rear of the McLaren to seal the championship. As it turned out, these scenarios were valid for all of 2 laps, with Lauda, along with 3 others, withdrawing their cars with the view that the atrociously wet and foggy weather was unsuitable for racing. Meanwhile, on the track, Hunt had taken the lead from poleman Andretti and held it for 61 laps of the 73-lap race. But as the track started to dry, he was forced to pit for new rubber, dropping him down to 5th with 5 laps to go, handing the crown to Lauda. But on the penultimate lap of the race, the McLaren seized 4th and then 3rd to snatch the title by a single point, with Andretti winning for Lotus. Three drivers entered the final round of the 1986 season at the Adelaide circuit with a shot at the title. Nigel Mansell led the championship in his Williams Honda FW11 with teammate Nelson Piquet 6 points adrift. Alain Prost in his McLaren Tag MP4 2C was 7 points off the lead and would need the Williams pair to trip up spectacularly to have a chance at taking the title. Things were running nicely with Keke Rosberg in his final F1 start leading in his McLaren, but on lap 63 of 82, on the verge of a fairy tale swan-song victory, he heard his engine blow. In fact, a rear Goodyear tyre had exploded, with the flailing rubber striking the bodywork and causing the death rattle he misheard. Just 1 lap later, Mansell, holding 3rd and perfectly positioned to take the title, suffered the same fate at 180 miles an hour, sending sparks into the sky as he wrestled his swerving, bucking machine to a stop at the end of the back straight. This left Piquet leading from Prost, leaving the Brazilian as champion, until Goodyear advised a precautionary pit stop. Prost, on fresher tyres thanks to a lap 32 puncture, inherited a 20-second lead, but was running out of fuel. Running on fumes, he held on to win by 4 seconds, his car running dry before he could return to the pits. The Frenchman had stolen an unlikely championship by 2 points, and with it became the first back-to-back F1 champion in 26 years. "1994 was a deeply turbulent year for Formula One. with the deaths of Roland Ratzenberger and Ayrton Senna at the San Marino Grand Prix, and Karl Wendlinger suffering comatose-inducing injuries in Monaco, and persistent controversy and scandal surrounding the Benetton team. By the time Formula One reached the Adelaide circuit for the final round of the championship, two men were still in contention. Michael Schumacher led the championship in his Benetton Ford B194 by a single point from Damon Hill in his Williams Renault FW16B, despite a penalty at Silverstone and disqualification at Spa-Francorchamps, and further questions over the legitimacy of the Benetton car he was driving. In qualifying, Nigel Mansell led before Schumacher crashed attempting to beat his time. But at the start, the two championship contenders streaked away from the field at the front. After 18 laps, they pitted together, with the German marginally in front. But on lap 35, separated by under 1.5 seconds, Hill's relentless pursuit of Schumacher finally paid the price, Michael making a mistake and striking the wall. Aware that a DNF for Hill would secure the crown by 1 point, Schumacher cynically drove his damaged car onto the racing line and into the path of the chasing Williams, eliminating both from the race. Mansell narrowly won the race from Ferrari's Gerhard Berger, and Benetton were denied the Constructors' Championship. The 1997 decider was held in similar circumstances to that of 1994, with Michael Schumacher, now driving for Ferrari in the 310B, leading the championship by 1 point from a Williams, this time with Canadian Jacques Villeneuve at the helm, coming into the final round of the season at Jerez. In qualifying, a unique and completely unexpected event occurred, where the top three cars of Villeneuve, Schumacher, and the other Williams of Heinz-Harald Frentzen all set exactly the same time. As a result, the grid was determined by the order of the times being set, giving Villeneuve pole from Schumacher. At the start, Schumacher rocketed into the lead, and Villeneuve had to find a way past to have a shot at the title. On lap 48, he saw an opening and dived alongside, only for Schumacher to attempt to crash into the Williams, in an attempt even more blatant than the 1994 incident. This time, though, it didn't work, and Schumacher was stuck alone in the gravel trap, whilst title rival Villeneuve was able to continue. Knowing that a points finish was essential, Villeneuve coaxed his damaged car for the next 22 laps, his 15-second lead eroded to nothing. With the McLaren pair of Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard closing in, Villeneuve allowed them past on the final lap, leaving the way clear for Mika Hakkinen to take his maiden Formula One victory. Schumacher, meanwhile, was excluded from the championship standings, promoting Frentzen to second. "2008 was a thrilling season, full of controversy, thrills and spills. By the time the drivers arrived at Interlagos for the championship decider, two men were in contention. Lewis Hamilton led the championship in his McLaren Mercedes MP423 and only needed to finish 5th to take the title, even if Felipe Massa in the Ferrari F2008 won. Massa was on pole, with Hamilton starting 4th as a rain shower delayed the race start by 10 minutes. When the race got underway, Massa effortlessly cruised away at the front of the field, with McLaren choosing an ultra-conservative strategy. Late on in the race, another rain shower caused a stampede for the pit lane, with only the Toyotas of Jarno Trulli and Timo Glock staying on dry tyres. This left Hamilton in 5th, but a momentary lapse when allowing BMW Sauber's Robert Kubica to unlap himself allowed the Toro Rosso of Sebastian Vettel to sneak through. With Hamilton now demoted to 6th, Massa would become the champion. For the final 2 laps, Hamilton desperately tried in vain to find a way past Vettel, the championship slipping away for the second time in a row. Massa crossed the line to take the victory, to the delight of the Brazilian crowd and the Ferrari team. But behind him, Hamilton had caught the dry tyre-shod Glock, and on the last corner snatched the 5th place he needed to steal the crown back, and he duly denied Felipe Massa the championship by a single point. Live TV pictures told the human story from within the Ferrari garage, as joy and euphoria turned to disbelief and despair. It was impossible not to feel sorry for Massa and Ferrari, with the Brazilian dignified and magnanimous in defeat. The 2012 season started in the most remarkable of ways, with 7 different drivers winning the first 7 races of the season. But by the time of the Brazilian Grand Prix at Interlagos, only 2 men were in with a chance at the title. Sebastian Vettel was leading the championship by 13 points and only needed to finish 4th to take the title, with Alonso needing to finish on the podium to have any chance at lifting his 3rd title. The McLarens of Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button locked out the front row, with Vettel starting 4th and Alonso back in 8th. At the start, Vettel dropped down to 7th, while Alonso roared to 5th. Things would get worse for the German, who was hit by Bruno Senna's Williams into the 4th corner, resulting in the Red Bull driver facing the wrong way and down in 22nd place. On lap 2, Felipe Massa helped Alonso past the sister Red Bull of Mark Webber, giving the Spaniard that critical 3rd place he needed to have a shot at the title. By the time the safety car was called on lap 23, Alonso was 4th and Vettel 5th after an incredible recovery drive through the field as light rain began to fall. At the front, Lewis Hamilton and Nico Hulkenberg collided, taking them out of victory contention. With the rain falling again, Vettel pitted for intermediate tyres, but a miscommunication meant the team weren't ready for him, costing the German time. Meanwhile, Massa had let Alonso through into second place, before Michael Schumacher, in his final Formula 1 start, handed Vettel sixth, before a crash for Paul di Resta brought the safety car out for the remainder of the race. With Alonso second and Vettel sixth, it meant the German took his third World Championship by just 3 points from a visibly disconsolate Alonso. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos from this channel. On the screen there are 2 more that I think you're going to enjoy. Once again, thank you very much for watching.